Hey divers, Alec, Peirce, we're back. Today I want to talk about something really boring. A book. It's just a book. It's just a book. Now you notice, by the way, I'm hanging on to this book because this book is not for sale. You cannot have this book. No amount of money. That's a silly thing to say, isn't it? This is my book. And it's in pristine condition, like new. I wash my hands before I start reading this book because it's a very, very valuable book to me, even though I have been servicing regulators since 1969. Yeah, two-hose regs and every regulator since then, every make and model, brands from companies that haven't existed for 20 or 30 years. Even so, often I will pick up Pete's book. Pete Wolfinger was the author of this book. I'll pick up his book just to clarify something and maybe learn a little bit more. It's just a fantastic book. And the only reason I mention this is I know that a lot of you guys out there are technically inclined. I have to separate that from tech divers. There's a big difference. But you're technically inclined. And you want to understand how regulators work. And you want to understand what makes them good, what makes them bad. You want to understand how to adjust them. And you want to understand about the different types of regulators. And most people say there's balanced and unbalanced. No. There's about 6 or 7 or 8 different types. There's tilt valves, which they don't make anymore, and there's venturis, and all I can't think of them all right now. All different types of about 6 or 7 different, completely different styles of regulators, and different meaning that the way they operate is different. The end result's the same. You suck on it, you get air. But between the tank and your mouthpiece, there's a dozen different ways for that mechanism to deliver air to you. And all that's explained in here. So what I'm saying essentially is that any of you guys out there, you guys are interested in technical information and knowing the details about how regulators work, this is the book that you need to look for. This is the book that you need to get. There's nothing else like it. There are other books on scuba equipment, and there are other technical type books as well, but there's nothing quite the same as Regulator Savvy. That's what it's called. How regulators work. That's the actual title. Regulator Savvy. How regulators work. And then there's the whole second half of the book is on regulator adjustment. He calls it regulator adjustment logic. Basically what it is explaining how you can adjust all the different styles of regulator, what you want to do, what you don't want to do. It's a great book. I'm going to show you just a couple of pages in here to help you to understand some of the details. Now, if you're very experienced and you already know a lot about regulators, how they work and various mechanical components and how to service regulators, then this will be a great read. You will still learn a lot, no question about it. But let me show you some of the detail. You know that in most regulators there's at least one spring. Commonly there's 2, 3, 4. I can think of a couple regulators that have 4 springs in them. And each of those springs is a different size. And the material, the spring steel, is a different type of spring steel. They have a different rebound, different compression. And you say, well, can I just put an ordinary spring in there? No. And this section of the book, just one section alone, deals with springs. First stage springs, second stage springs, different sizes, different lengths, and explains everything about them, even with charts to show the rebound, the compression, and what the spring does, and why it is a specific size, specific diameter. Even the metal in the spring is a specific diameter, not just the diameter of the spring, but the metal. It's what it's. All that's explained. So this is the kind of detail that you get from Pete's book. It's just incredible. Let's go to another page here. I'll get some more information on here. This is a tip. By the way, it is chock full. Chock full. I wonder where that expression came from. Anyway, chock full. That's C-H-O-C-K, by the way, not chalk that you write with. Chock full of information. And it is wildly illustrated. And all these illustrations are extremely accurate and extremely high quality illustrations, not pictures, illustrations. Here's an example. So here's an example of a standard unbalanced first stage. And you can see, back her up, like that. You can see how detailed they are. Here's another one over here. I don't know if you can see that. You want to wait. I'll get you a better one in a minute, Kev. We'll zoom in on. But this explains all about the different types of regulators and how they work. Let's go to another page. I picked out a few pages in here, which I thought were particularly interesting. We talked about springs briefly, and I explained how your knowledge, the technical understanding of how springs work, how important they are is important. The other component, part that's found in almost all regulators, and that is not well understood, is O-rings. Yes, springs and O-rings. You don't even think about them. You grease the O-rings and stick them in, and the spring, yeah, that's clean, you stick it back in. You don't even think about it, but they're critical components to the safe, proper operation of a scuba regulator. He has a whole section here on O-rings. He explains the different types of O-rings, the different way that they're used. Look at this next page over here, all about O-rings, all the different ways that O-rings are mounted and how they work, about extrusion and how they stop. It really is an incredible booklet. Give me a sec here, Kev. I'll get you a really good picture to zoom in on. Second stages. Here's a different type of second stage over here. This is an internally adjustable second stage, a Venturi style or a pilot style. You haven't heard that before, have you? Well, there's a regulator called the Pilot. I don't know if it's called the Pilot because it uses a pilot valve, or maybe they're just trying to make it sound really incredible, but it is a pilot regulator. What does that mean? You haven't heard that before, perhaps, many of you. This explains all about that. So let me get another picture here, Kevin. I think I have a really good detailed picture back here. that you can zoom in on. Oh no, not that one. So I don't know, can you zoom in on here? Right on that one section right there. Hold it still. You see that, guys? Can you see it? Here's the mouthpiece, the Venturi assist. Here's the diaphragm with the exhaust valve. I know there's a regulator. And the exhaust valve was mounted right in the face of the diaphragm. Here's the lever, and here's another, what's going, and the switch on the front. I don't know if you know this particular regulator from Scuba Pro, but this is extremely detailed, very, very accurate, and he explains step by step every bit and piece and how it works. It really is a very, very incredible book. Okay, one more section I want to show you back here. And this is on the second half, or the third, I suppose, of the book, is about adjusting regulators. Now, this is really, really important. This is the section that I personally often refer to because he explains the theory of adjustment. You know that you would turn the screw on the second stage until it stops free flowing, and you go diving, right? There's a little more to it than that. But anyway, if you get to this section, when you get to this section, you will see that Pete has shown all the equipment for testing, flow devices, charts. Let me see what else. All about adjusting regulators, first stages, second stages, making the first stage and the second stage match. The lever, this explains, here's a lever on the first stage and how different amounts, as the lever moves, as it moves through stages. 19% it says here of its total movement, 25 up to 31. So there's the movement, and at different points in that movement of the lever, there's a different effect on the regulator. Yeah, so there's a lot of neat information in here, and I think you guys would really enjoy it if you can get your hands on a copy of this book. I think you'd really, really enjoy it. And certainly anybody in the business of servicing scuba regulators would find it a godsend. Really, really valuable. I enjoy it for one other reason, and that is when somebody asks me a question about how does that work, then I'm able to explain it in detail, usually simply. I'm just doing what Pete did in here and explaining exactly, well, that works because here and here and here. And a lot of that information and the means by which I explained it is from this book. So I think you'd enjoy that as well if you're an educator. I've had folks, some of you guys have commented on my videos that I clearly explain things. I was a teacher and educator, but often in these technical things I explain because I have a really, really clear understanding from my experience and partly from reading this book. Anyway, there you go. I'm not selling this book. I don't get a darn cent for selling this book, but I picked it up the other day to look up something. I forget what it was. I said, gosh, the guys out there watching Alec Peirce Scuba, they might really enjoy this. So I thought I'd take just a short video and tell you about this book. See if you can find it. If you can get this hardcover 3-ring version, is about $50-$60. They all have it in a spiral bound for about half of that. So it's not, I don't think it's hard to find, and it's not terribly expensive. Regulator Savvy. Google it. You'll find it. Anyway, there you go, guys. A great resource book for you guys that are really into scuba and scuba equipment. Okay, Alec Peirce Scuba. from Simcoe Diving in Barrie, Ontario. Hey, take care. Bye-bye.